Hi, Darin. Thanks so much for being here with me today to talk about change management.
Oh, no problem. Glad to be here.
This is a pretty interesting topic because obviously we have seen a lot of change in our company. It's something that we planned for a long time. So obviously change management was something that was a big part of Connect First. But I think a good place to start would be to talk about what change management actually is, because I think there's a lot of people that don't really know what change management entails.
Well, there's a lot of different versions of change management, and there's lots of courses, books, seminars around change management in how you yourself manage change. Now, when we look at change management at Connect First Credit Union, our courses really emphasize the management of your teams through change. So, for instance, we have Leaders at Change, which is a course offered through us via Franklin Covey. And that course is really about how leaders manage their people through change, both from the point of view of how you do it most effectively, and also, dealing with some of the emotional impacts that go with change.
So sort of piggybacking off of that, how can change impact employee well-being and productivity?
Well, obviously for well-being, if there's a lot of change and it doesn't necessarily go as planned, which is the way most change goes, it can be very frustrating and very stressful. And particularly for those individuals who have been around for a long time and they were once experts. They knew everything. People would go to them to ask questions, and it was a point of pride for them to be able to answer those questions and help people. Now everything's changed, and they know just as much as somebody who started with the company last week. Those kinds of things can have a really strong emotional impact on individuals. And of course, any kind of stress can lead to physical manifestations, loss of sleep, and stomach pains, headaches, all these other things that come with stress. So as far as productivity, looking at this image here, you can see that there's actually change management plans for a loss of productivity. In fact, if there's any kind of significant change, whether it goes well or doesn't go according to plan, it will always result initially with a drop in productivity. We should expect that.
Right.
If there is no change in productivity, there's no drop, then people really aren't doing anything significantly differently. And so we don't really look at that as any kind of change you really have to manage. I mean, so the lunchroom is now painted orange instead of green. Well, big deal. It doesn't really change people's productivity. But if it's anything that's significant, we expect to see a drop. So as you can see in this diagram, that we start with the zone of status quo, which is the way things are now. Then we hit the zone of disruption, and that's when the change hits. And it's supposed to cause things, even when we're fully prepared for it and trained for it, it's supposed to cause a dip in productivity because we're learning something new. We're doing things differently. The trick is, can we get out of that? And that's where the zone of adoption comes in. And through the zone of adoption, people are now using the new skills, the new experience, the new resources to make the change work for us. And that's where we start to come out of that zone of disruption. And if we're really embracing the change, then we get to enter the best zone, which is the zone of innovation. And that's where we start to see the benefits of all of the sacrifice and training and stress and everything that might have gone with that initial change. And we see things actually start to enter a new status quo, which is better for productivity than where we were when we started. You can think of the zone of disruption and adoption. That whole valley is the cost of the change. What does it cost us in resources, in mental and physical health? Might even just plain cost a lot of money to make this change.
Right.
And if we're going to make that worthwhile, we have to enter a zone of innovation. And not everybody makes it there. So if we don't make it there, then all we have is cost. We don't have benefit.
What would you say is the biggest challenge or some of the biggest challenges that managers find when they have to manage change?
Probably the single greatest challenge that a leader has is managing the different types of personalities and how they respond to change. Within the course that we just talked about, Leaders at Change, we do identify 5 different types of major reactions to change. First, we have somebody called a mover. And the mover is somebody who embraces the change right from the beginning. They're gung-ho, they're ready to go, they're going to lead the change within your team. That's great. We love to get those
Yeah.
individuals. Then we have a person that we call the minimizer. Now, the minimizer, they're happy to make the change, but they're going to do it as little as possible so that it impacts them as little as possible. So they'll look at the whole change and go, you know what, I could change this, this, and this, but I don't really think that needs to be changed, so I won't change that. So they're somewhat on board.
Right.
Then we have the waiter. The waiter is not the person who brings you the food. This is the person who waits for everybody else to make the change and to see what happens before they decide to make the change. Often those are people who've been with an organization for a long time, and they've seen change come and go, and they've seen some changes be unchanged. And they might be a little bit jaded where they're thinking, well, let's see how this one goes before I really get on board and upset my own life.
Right.
Then we have probably the most difficult, which is the resistor. They're not just unhappy with the change or somewhat resistant, they're actively resisting the change. They're sabotaging the change.
Yeah.
And these are people who have influence over others. In many ways, your mover who takes on the change right away and your resistor are two sides of the same coin. They're both people with huge influence within your team. One's working for the change, one is working against it, and there's almost teams within your team that develop because of that.
Right.
And then finally, we have somebody who's actually one of the easiest to deal with. They're called the quitter, and they're just gone. Most of the time, they're physically gone as well as mentally gone.
Right.
And occasionally, you might have to recognize that this person is checked out only mentally, so their body shows up to work, but they're just not involved with anything.
Right.
And those are rare. Those are rare. But there's not much you can do about that. The person's gone, they're gone.
Right. They just check right out. It's too overwhelming for them.
I mean, they've gone to another department, another company. They just decided, this is the last change I ever wanted to make. Man, I'm not going to do it.
So you talked a little bit about leaders at change. What would you say are the biggest takeaways that managers can get from taking this course?
I think the biggest things is that everybody reacts to change differently. And not everybody reacts to every change the same way. One time you might be a resistor, but another change you go, this is great. So you're a mover. So what we really see is that there's some great ways within this course that we can move people from one category to another. And that helps you a great deal. Also realizing that things are supposed to get worse before they get better provides a lot of comfort, because I think that there's a lot of pressure for leaders and teams to take a change and do it right from the beginning, get everything perfect.
Right.
It's not going to happen. Not if it's really significant. If it really matters, there's going to be new skills you're going to have to try out. And you will get there. And as long as you have the right attitude and you're really working to make the change, things will get better. But expect it to get worse before it gets better. And you can, if your manager complains, you can tell Darin said so. It's all right.
Yeah.
Things are supposed to get worse before they get better.
So the last thing I wanted to ask is there anything you can recommend to get us through this period of change? Because we're still going through it. We still have another conversion to go. We're still working on making things right for our members and just getting everybody acclimated to this big change. So do you have any quick pieces of advice for people?
Yeah, communication I think is really key in the kind of change that we're going through right now. First, communicate any experiences you have that could help others. So you found something that works. Make sure you get the word out. Don't hold anything back, because we don't all have the opportunity to experience everything at the same time. So if we can learn from somebody else's bad experience or struggle, that's great. It means that you save somebody else from having that same struggle. But also with communication, communicate how you're feeling, how you're doing. Talk to the people that you trust. Talk to your manager. Do a little bit of venting. And you know what? Be somebody that people can vent to as well. It's really good that not only are we all in this together as far as the actual change that's taking place, but know that we have each other's backs emotionally, mentally, and we can really work together well on that. And if that all fails, alcohol.
Yeah, alcohol's a good one. Donuts and cookies are another one.
Yeah, that's one of my favorites.
Candy?
I don't tend to drink, but donuts.
Yeah, donuts.
Oh,
well,
and
attend
the course.
Oh,
attend the course.
Oh, yes, of course. Yeah. Attend the course. It's happening May 20th. That is the next date for Leaders at Change. Seems like a long ways off, but time flies. All our other dates for all our other professional development courses are on the HRD calendar, which is on our training corner. Just go ahead and sign up now. Darin, thank you so much for going over all this. I feel like I learned a lot today, which I appreciate. And hopefully everybody else enjoys it too.
Maybe I'll see you at my course.
Yes, maybe I'll sign up. I'll go sign up now. Maybe, hopefully my manager approves it.
I could put that on your PA and make sure it happens.
Yeah, exactly.